So a lot of people want to train a high level athlete, right? That's a lot of people's dream, right? And for me, like, I never thought I would deserve to train a high level baseball player, but like I did envision like being able to be at baseball in some capacity. And so I'll tell you guys how Jake and I got together. There was a baseball player by the name of John Baker, and John played 13 years in the MLB, was a catcher, traveled around for different teams quite a bit during his career, but he ended his career with the Chicago Cubs, and then is now the mental skills director for the Cubs because he just got his master's in sports psychology or whatever it is, so mindset around athletic performance. And so put John over here to the side. Well, this guy Curtis Hembroff is the instructor for jiu-jitsu at 10th Planet Austin, and which is based on it. And him and I were buddies, and he knew I was a big baseball fan. And one night, it's probably 8, 9 p.m. at night, I get a text from Curtis, which was uncharacteristic as well. And it's, hey man, some baseball dude just came through jiu-jitsu to roll. And I was like, oh, dope. Who was it? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, cool. So I went in the next morning and looked at Zen Planner and figured out who it was. And it was this guy, John Baker. And I'm not a Twitter guy, but I'm going to have it. And so I jumped on, tweeted him, hey man, saw you came to On It, really bummed I missed you. Would have loved to meet you in person, big fan, blah, 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 blah. And then it turned into him and I chatting a little bit more. And then it turned into, I sent him to one of our courses we were teaching in San Francisco, which is where he lived at the time. And so he went to our durability course, which was all about restorative care and mobility and joint health. And then he was like, as we talked more, he came to Austin to work with their AAA team, the Cubs AAA team, who was in Austin playing the Rangers team. And so then he came down and we trained for a week and hung out and went to some games. And then he was like, dude, you gotta start training Arrieta. He lives here, right, in Austin. And I was like, oh, cool. So then he connects me with Jake via text, and then next thing you know, I'm like, hey man, yeah, I'm, let me know how I can help, assist, and be of value. And I say that to anybody that's looking to get into someone or into that situation. Look at it this way. Of course it's valuable for me to train Jake Arrieta. Is it valuable for Jake Arrieta to train with me? Right? Just like if you see that celebrity or that movie star at the restaurant, of course it's valuable for you to see them in the middle of the bar at a restaurant when you're out on a Friday night. Is it going to be valuable for them, for you to interrupt them in the middle of their dinner with their family? Right? Probably not. So pick and choose your moments and look at the way you approach this. And it's anybody. I don't care if it's an athlete or a celebrity or a coach you really admire or someone in business, right? If it's an influencer, a network, whoever it is, right? Is it valuable for them? And so, that's always the game I play, right? How do I add value? If I have the capacity to do it, how do I add value to what you're doing? And so, we started off and it was going to be around, like, I was going to help him build a new home gym. Like, that's how our early conversation started. And then it was like, oh, I'm going to be in Chicago in a couple weeks. If you just want to get together in person and chat for lunch. He's like, yeah, man. So we went to lunch. And then we kind of kept in touch throughout the year. And then, we didn't even really talk about training. But I knew it was like, all right, I need to get him in for a workout with me before January 1, because once January 1 starts, he's baseball activities only, right? And he's known for his fitness and Pilates, right? He's a big Pilates guy. And I'm like, you can't disrupt these athletes' flow once they're doing their thing. And so, purposefully, usually I would go back to Portland for Christmas and New Year's, and I would stay there. And this time I was like, I'm going to come back right after Christmas because I think I have a shot at training this guy. And so I got him in once right before Christmas and then came back after Christmas, and we trained every day, 6 days a week for 2018. And that was his free agency year. Then went out and saw him a couple times in Philly and got to connect with him there. And then 2019 comes around, trained him, now we're on year 2. And so, really, I tell you that not because, yeah, it's cool, I get to train a baseball player and it's a childhood dream that I get to fulfill, but understand that it had nothing to do with, I can do this for you. It's like, oh, no one's doing this training technique or no one's doing this. You should be doing it my way. It's how do I add value to what you've already got going on, right? And so taking that mindset with you in everything that you do, every relationship you do, right? You have to understand that true trust is when you're willing to share your network with someone else, right? John Baker is not going to introduce me to Jake Arrieta if he thinks I'm an asshole, right? It's like, why would I introduce him to someone that's going to tarnish my relationship with someone else I care about, right? So we have to really start looking at how do we treat people? What angle do we play? Sure. Do I have an angle a little bit? Yeah, I get some value. I get a ton of value out of training Jake, right? But he needs to make sure he knows that that's never on the forefront of my mind, right? Everything I do is always geared around how can I help him? How can I help his family? How can I help whatever's going on in his life? Right. And that should be the same conversation with all of you and your clients.